Howdy, YouTube. Hi, Diego. How's my little buddy doing today? Come on, let's go cook something up with Grandpa. Victory Garden Revival class number 1. Today we'll be covering choosing a location with east, south, and west options for sunlight consideration, preparing your site, a bit about plant and crop rotation for maximum health and disease resistance and pest control, drip irrigation, season extension and pest protection, that's a floating row cover for those of you who are knowledgeable. And that's about it for the class today. Choosing the location for your garden. The most important factors when you are choosing your garden location would be where the sun rises, where it sets. You want to notice that in the spring, summer, and fall. And you just see where it's where the most sunlight falls consistently. If you have a choice between an east shadow and a west shadow, meaning the sunset's shaded, I would choose having the sunrise shaded over sunset because it tends to grow your crops a little better if they get the end of the day sun. You always want to have in the northern hemisphere, you always want to have an open south because in the spring and fall the sun's down there in the south, and in the summertime it's up there kind of in the north. So to get the maximum growing potential out of spring and fall, you want a complete open south exposure. All right, preparing your site. It's best to start preparing your site the spring before you want to garden. If you can't do that, then you want to do it at the very least the fall. It's going to be really difficult to break ground in the spring and grow a decent crop that first year. You can do it, but you got to rototill the heck out of your ground, and then you got to fertilize the heck out of it just to get anything to grow. So you're best starting off in the spring. You break up the sod, just let it break up. Maybe you apply your lime, and that's it. And then in the fall, you apply whatever your fertilizers are recommended for a fall application, no nitrogen-based ones, and you rototill that in. And then in the spring, you'll have a nice tilth. The soil will be broken up and you'll be able to garden successfully. That's the best way you can do it. You could also, if you didn't want to just break up the sod and leave it there, you could plant buckwheat. And then in the fall, you would rototill that in and plant a crimson clover cover crop. And that would be rototilled in the spring and provide nitrogen source for your soil in the springtime. So that's how you can start preparing your site. You want to think a year in advance. If you can't, you're going to have to pay for it in soil fertility costs. All right, a little bit about plant rotation, crop rotation, why it is important. Depending on the type of crop it is, like your cole crops that are in your Brassica family, and I'm not going to get into these Latin names anymore. Cabbage can get clubfoot if it's grown in the same ground after 3 or 4 years. You can totally destroy your ground, and I don't know, I've never had clubfoot, so I don't know how to fix it, but all the local gardeners I know that have it just can't grow cabbage anymore. That's a Brassica, so is cauliflower, so is broccoli, so is all your greens, your mustard greens, your mustards. So these are all in the same family, but what eats a mustard green doesn't eat a broccoli plant. That's what I've noticed. So you break them down into rows. Broccoli's one row, your mustard greens would be another, and you only have, for the Brassica, you only have one row in one place 1 year. So your rotation would be Brassica, broccoli. The next year you would plant lettuce. Now lettuce is a little more forgiving, and you can do that 2 years in a row. So you can grow 1 row of broccoli, 2 rows of lettuce, and as you rotate it across your garden, you're getting rid of your broccoli problem, all the pests that love the Brassica, because they do. I mean, radishes, turnips, there's just so many bugs that go after Brassicchia above all else. That's my biggest pest problem is with those crops. So you want to use crop rotation. It'll help with your fertility because not every plant takes up the same amount of minerals. It'll cut down your pest problem and it'll eliminate your disease problem. Drip irrigation is the best invention mankind has come up with that I can think of for gardening. It allows you to put down a very small amount of water in a very specific location with no evaporation factor. You only water your vegetables, so you're not watering the weeds in the rows. So drip irrigation saves you money in water. It's easy to use, it's easy to control, and it doesn't promote weed growth. What we use drip tape, and we bury it about 1 inch to 2 inches deep to cut down on the surface moisture so seeds won't germinate. We also generally use planter's paper in a production garden. That's a weed barrier suppressant made out of either paper or cornstarch. And speaking of planter's paper, that is a season extender. It can increase the temperature of your soil by, I believe, 5 to 7 degrees. So you put that down in the spring to heat up your soil. There's also floating row covers, Agribon are the trade names, insect barrier, and it's a woven fleece. It's white usually. Well, it's always white, and it can be used, you can put hoops down and you just drape it over the top of the hoops. You can clip it to them, and that will keep another, I believe, 6 to 12 degrees depending on which product you're using. Some are just designed to keep insects out, so they let through most of the light and retain almost no heat. But it's, you can get almost 10 to 15 degrees boost in your soil by using temperature, by using season extenders, such as a combination of planter's paper and Agribon, which is what we do. They also have some plastic stuff, but I haven't had a lot of success with that. I prefer the woven fleece floating row cover. You can get these products at Johnny's Seed, Territorial Seed, or Peaceful Valley. And those are the 3 most respected seed companies that I use. They're the only ones I use. So the value of extending your season, you can have broccoli in April. When we were going to the farmer's market and we were on it and we were hustling, we would start our broccoli seeds indoors, like this, and then we would harden them off outside, transplant them into the ground, grow them under a floating row cover, and we were the first farmers at the farmer's market with broccoli by at least 3 weeks because we spent the extra energy to do that. It's not very profitable on a large scale, but maybe one day the industrialists will develop an organic way to do this. I've envisioned it on tractors, but that's another story. That basically wraps up our class for gardening class number 1, Victory Garden Revival. Yeehaw! Anyways, the Victory Garden Revival is all about educating people into the community garden is good, but you need to augment all 16 known minerals in the soil to get healthy plants. If you just throw down some chicken manure or some cow manure, in 4 or 5 years you're going to basically deplete your soil from most of the nutrients it needs. You're going to start having disease problems. If you don't lime and you're eating all the vegetables off of there, your teeth could fall out. That happened to a world-renowned gardener. I won't mention his name. So if you don't balance your soils out, and you don't go by those tests, so you know what's in your soil and what you need to add, Victory Garden is not going to give you a victory. It's going to deplete you. And that's why we're doing the revival. It originally started because so many people failed the draft in World War II because of nutrition problems. They couldn't pass the they couldn't dash past the draft because they had nutrition problems. They were rejected from the draft because they were malnourished. So the government came up with a program called the Victory Gardens, which would get people to growing vegetables in their homes, their gardens, their lands, and provide them with the nutrients they needed in a time of rationing. Thank you for watching. See you later, YouTube. Bye, Diego. And here we have the Victory Garden, as you can see. And here we have some firemen parking in our lot. Alright, the project we're doing today is to set up the drip irrigation line around the Victory bed. We're going to use this very simple to use system to put in the Dig Corporation's drip line. The primary consists of elbows and tees. So we'll get on that and I'll do some photo shots and explain the process.